Ooh, a spooky stream during spooky month. Ooh. Well, I'm not the biggest Halloween guy, but I do like the spirit of Halloween. I'll leave it at that. um, didn't like trick or treating as a kid, as some of you probably already know at this point, since I've made videos talking about that, or at least one video a few years ago talking about not caring about trick or treating, at least. I shouldn't say I don't care about Halloween because I do care about Halloween to an extent. Again, I like the spirit of Halloween and the spookiness, but trick or treating, like I said before, was just never really for me at all. Aside from the candy, of course. I like getting the free candy. Anyway, hello Robert. Hello Luna. What's up? Nothing much. It's been a while since I streamed. When was the last stream I did? I never fucking remember the dates of my streams. Uh, 1 month ago, September 12th, 2025. Wow. So that's like what, 7 weeks ago? Yeah. Well, I mean, it was either this Friday or next Friday I'd be streaming. Maybe I should have reserved this stream for next Friday, since next Friday isn't it Halloween? Whatever. I felt like streaming today. Same, just chilling. Yeah, that's what I do pretty much all the fucking time. Can't believe it's almost 2026. Yeah. I mean, it's wild how fast time flies. Feels like just a minute ago this year just began. I was like, "Oh, good riddance to 2024. Bring in 2025." I mean, I already knew going into the year, like current events was this year was not going to be a good year, but I was hoping for at least, my personal life to be better than how it was in 2024. And it has been. Not to say this year has been, fantastic or anything, but this year is more in line with the other years in the 2020s, barring 2020 and 2024. 2021 was an all right year. 2022 and 23 were also just all right. 2024 can go rotten hell, and 2025, again, current events wise, not a good year to say the least. But yeah, my personal life, I mean, it's just been all right. That's good enough for me. Oh, okay. Okay, what? I mean, I'm someone who doesn't ask for much if something is just decent, you know, even if something isn't like, amazing or anything, it's good enough for me. So long as, something isn't bad, or like, again, as long as a year isn't bad, full of just, dismal events almost stacked on top of each other like last year was for me. I am content enough. I have a very low bar. I don't ask for much in life either. I appreciate the little things. That's how everyone should live life, honestly. Don't ask for too much. Just appreciate, the good things you already have, and appreciate, the things that, may not exactly blow you away, but just appreciate that, they aren't, flat out bad things, like I just said, like experiences, you know, a certain experience may not be amazing, but it could have been a hell of a lot fucking worse. 2025 kind of sucked, hoping for a better 2026. Yeah, I see people say that every year. This year sucked. I hope next year is better. Seems like some people, they just don't have any good year. Not to say that's the case with you, but just something I've observed in general on the internet. It's like a whole choir of people saying, "This current year sucked. I hope next year is better." And then they say the same exact thing the same time next year. I mean, of course, life experiences are different. One's best year of their life could be another person's worst year. I get that, but it just seems like not an there's a pretty not so insignificant crowd of people um who seem to say, every single year this year was absolutely fucking horrible. And I guess I can't really blame them. I mean, again, current events wise, this year has been um this year sure has been something, and I don't mean that in a good way. But I mean, I don't want to just base my years off of what's going on in the news and in the world in general. I mean, of course, all of that is still significant, but I also like to judge a year on the basis of like how things in my life were in that specific year. That's a bigger factor for me, and whether or not a year is good than, oh, is there good news or is there bad news? I mean, I mean, if that's your basis for if a year is good or not, then every fucking year is going to be terrible. Best years of my life are 2014, 2016, 2017 through 18. Well, I mean, I've gushed about 2014 a lot on this channel. Same with 2017, so I don't think I need to gush in those years more than I already have in this stream. Um, you already know how much I loved those years. So, but 2016 2016 is another year that I remember when we were still in 2016, people were like, I can't wait for 2016 to be over. This year has been so terrible. And a lot of those people seem to like base the merit of that year on, like celebrity deaths that happened in that year and, current events and the election and all that. But in terms of my personal life, 2016 was all right. I've watched some videos I uploaded in that year, more particularly the personal videos I uploaded in that year, and I mean, I still had my share of struggles that year, not to say, that wasn't the case at all, but I do feel like I did kind of overstate a little bit when it came to like how rough that year was for me because it really wasn't that bad. I mean, I was a loner for most of that year. I was a freshman in high school for most of 2016. Well, first half of 2016, and I had some friends. There was one kid that I was, you know, I wouldn't say best friends with, but we were pretty good friends. And then they transferred by the time sophomore year started, and I thought that was gonna be a bad omen for sophomore year because I was like, oh, this kid, I was really close to them uh, in freshman year. Now they're not gonna be here anymore. Oh, um, but I did have a few other friends in freshman year that I, you know, liked speaking to. So, it's not like I was a complete loner during freshman year. But overall, freshman year was just okay, and most of 2016 was just okay. But then sophomore year, again, I'm not gonna gush over sophomore year in 2017 all over again. I'll spare you of that. But needless to say, I mean, it would have been even better if that kid was still at my school in sophomore year. But that kid leaving wasn't as bad of an omen as I thought it would be. 2018, though, all right. That was my junior year of high school. Well, first half of 2018, I was in my junior year of high school. Kind of paled in comparison to my sophomore year, and 2018 in general kind of paled in comparison to 2017. But it wasn't a bad year at the same time. Same. I don't base my happiness on current events and politics. Yeah, I mean, contrary to what some people may believe about me, I don't base my whole life and my happiness and mental health around politics. In fact, I've been kind of taking a breather from politics. I mean, barring like political videos I've made recently, of course, but no, I haven't been looking at the news as much, and you know, this isn't the first time I've done this either. You know, I like taking breathers from paying attention to current events every few months or so. Not to say I don't completely tune everything out, nor do I think anyone should completely tune everything out, but I just want to like focus on the things that actually make me happy at the moment. Though I have been paying attention a lot to Zoran Mamdani when it comes to the realm of politics because that's like the only fucking bright spot in this current political climate right now. Zoran's campaign, him winning the mayoral primary, him pretty much being fucking inevitable at this point when it comes to winning the general. I mean, don't get too confident. I mean, people got very confident in 2016 and 2024, and look how that look how those elections turned out. But you know, it's just been, the fact that someone who actually gives a fuck about the city and seems to actually have, his constituents' best interests in mind, and someone who, actually just gives a fuck in general, and someone who actually advocates for good policy and good politics is on track to be my next mayor in my city. It's something that, really it's significant to me, it's the one it's the one thing within the realm of politics that actually brings me happiness at the moment. So in spite of, wanting to take a little bit of a breather from politics and everything, I have been still paying attention to Zoran and watching interviews religiously and podcast appearances he has been making. And he's just such a charismatic guy on top of that. I might actually, um, it's a little too early to say anything definitively, but I might actually be meeting him. Don't get too excited. My mother is friends with a guy who used to be her coworker, and he does journalism as like a side gig. His main job now is working in Medicaid, but he does journalism as a side gig. He's part of like an independent newspaper. I think he might actually own the newspaper. I don't fucking know this exactly, but he managed to land an interview with Zoran, and at first at first he invited her to like come along and listen in on the interview and get to meet him, and then she was like, "Oh, my son is actually a big fan of him too." And he's the one who introduced me to him, so can he come along too? And he was like, yeah, sure. So uh, I might actually get the chance to like, meet him, maybe not have like an in-depth conversation with him, probably doesn't have the time, but even if it's just like shaking his hand and saying hello, that would actually be really cool. My mom said this interview is going to take place after he becomes mayor, which I don't know if that means after he wins the election or after he is actually inaugurated. We'll see. Again, we'll see if I can actually go. I don't want to get too excited or get anyone here too excited if anyone even gives a shit just yet. The fact that 2017 is almost 9 years ago is insane. Still remember so much that happened. Amazing year. Yeah, it's 2016 being 2016. Well, yeah, 2016 also, but 2017 especially being almost a decade ago. Just Well, it just will never not be crazy to me. Um, Again, very good year of my life, and the fact that it's almost a decade ago, I don't know if I should say it depresses me. Well, maybe a little bit, but it's just also, I guess, interesting. Like, I don't know. It's a year that I obviously can remember very, very well, look back very fondly at, and the fact that it's almost a decade ago just bends my mind. Like, it's also crazy to me that 2015 was 10 years ago. Like I've especially after I made my year by year playlist, I've been rewatching old videos of mine, like more particularly the Meverse videos. And I would, there'd be plenty of times where I watch a certain Meverse video from like 2015, and I'm like, I remember so clearly making this video. And I remember so clearly like the day I made this video, like what happened during the day and what was going on right before I recorded the video and right after recording the video. And to think that it's 10 years ago now, oh wow. It's just, something that, really, I guess, gets to me. That's the right wording. All the US government accounts that joined Blue Sky recently are on the top 20 most blocked leaderboard. The White House recently passed Jesse Singal to become the second most blocked account. Well, I mean, it's not surprising at all. I mean, considering that the predominant demographic of Blue Sky are people who are at least left of center, doesn't surprise me that the White House and other official U.S. government accounts on the platform are among the most blocked, and that quickly to boot. I like Blue Sky. I mean, I haven't been posting on it as much lately. I don't know. I've just never really been that frequent of a poster on social media. I guess barring Discord, if you want to count that. But Discord is more like, a chat app when it comes to like traditional social media where you make posts that receive likes, replies, engagement. I don't know. I mean, I have an Instagram. It's personal, like I've said a billion times, so I don't share it on here or any of my public social media platforms accounts. I mean, but even Instagram, I mostly just use that to like message friends, and I don't like post on it often. Make traditional posts on it very often. Don't post many photos, don't post many videos. Well, also, I just don't have much fucking going on in my life anyway, so I have no pictures or videos to post outside of like pictures of my cats every once in a while or something like that. 2018 was good, but also an interesting experience. What was interesting about 2018 for you? I mean, I don't have many complaints when it comes to 2018. Not a whole lot of bad things happened in that year. The one bad thing that comes to my mind immediately, and even then, it's not like, something that, deeply affected me, but it was still very sad, was the girlfriend of a friend of mine passing away. She she had heart issues that went completely unnoticed throughout her whole life. She passed away in her sleep, uh, which I mean that unlocked a new fear for me for a while. Another bad thing that happened to me, well, not to me, but still just a bad thing that happened in that year was a friend of mine also attempting to take his own life, which thankfully that attempt failed, and he is still here and is in a much better headspace these days. I'm very glad. that really hit me. That was a very awful experience, of course, and heartbreaking because he was a good friend. He still is a good friend. Again, I'm very glad he's still here. The news can be addictive. I actually told myself I won't watch any more news in 2026 and beyond. Like cold turkey, you're not gonna watch any news stations or not ingest any news at all. I find that to be a pretty daunting task, to say the least, considering how unavoidable many current events are. It's very likely that Mikey Sherrill will be the next governor of New Jersey. Heard of them, but I admittedly don't know a whole lot of their platform, so I don't know if they're like good or not. But yeah, I've heard a little bit about Cheryl. I look back at 2017 more fondly than 2016. Yeah, I do too. 2016 was just, I mean, again, it was an all right year, but I think 2017 was much better. But now there's this huge wave of nostalgia for 2016 on the internet that's really fucking annoying. You hear it all the time. 2016 was such a great year when I remember that year clearly. And I remember no one liked that year when we were still in 2016. It's wild how much nostalgia can just change one's perception. It's especially annoying with all these people who very clearly like peaked in high school in that year at age 15 and they clearly had nothing fucking else go on in their life after 2016, and they have so much nostalgia for that year, especially like the douchebag edge lords who are like, you could say the N word without consequences in 2016. Yeah. For me, 2017 was amazing because of the things I was interested in at the time. I had pretty, well, not pretty different, but of course, I had different interests back in 2017 than I do now, which is only natural. I mean, I was 16 back then, and I'm 24 now. I'm in my mid 20s now. Isn't that so crazy? Not really. I don't really think about that too much. 24 doesn't even really seem like mid 20s, at least not to me. I still feel like I'm in my early 20s. I mean, for me, when I think of mid 20s, I think more like 26, 27. I don't know. Maybe I just want to feel younger than I am. I really shouldn't talk like that. I'm only fucking 24. Meverse died 9 years ago. Oh yeah, the 9 year anniversary is coming up in November, early November. I forget what day exactly. What was it? The 6th, the 7th? Either one of those 2 days, or maybe I'm a little off. I don't know, but yeah, didn't dawn on me that the 9 year anniversary of Meverse shutting down is coming soon in just a few weeks. Wow. Well, I mean, not really much of a love loss for me. Not at the time, certainly, because I had already quit Meverse for 2 years by that point. I really got fed up with my post getting taken down, and also, the bullshit restrictive updates the platform received. So, at that point, I was like, fuck this platform. And when I heard it was shutting down, I was like, whatever. I didn't care. And I was already kind of used to Nintendo shutting services down anyway Flipnote Atana was the first big one for me. If anyone in this chat even remembers that, the DSi came with this drawing studio app called Flipnote Studio, and it had an online service called Atena you could upload your flip notes onto. And I loved posting on there, and that was before Meverse, my true first foray into social media. Even though the flip notes I would upload would oftentimes receive no views, no comments, no engagement at all. Meverse was the first social media platform where I got any attention at all. So even though Hitena was really my first taste of social media, Meverse I really consider to be, the first real experience I had with social media. Considering, again, I've befriended a lot of people on there, and it was the first social media platform again I had any attention on. Not to say I was like a big hotshot on Meverse or anything, but I had a few hundred followers on both of the accounts I had. Got a decent amount of engagement on everything, on every post I would make. So that was significant to me at the time. Met a lot of cool people on there that I don't talk to anymore, barring a very small handful of people. Justin and occasionally a few other people. Like, yeah, unfortunately. I would love to get in touch with some Meverse friends from back in the day, but obviously I have no means of contacting any of them, unfortunately. Where did I leave off? Someone mentioned Meverse or whatever. Ah, here we go. I only post once a month on Instagram. I don't even post once a month on Instagram. I could go like maybe like a few months of not posting on Instagram at all. I mean, no one really questions it. I know some people who post on Instagram pretty frequently. I've just never been. This might be weird of me to say, considering, I have a YouTube channel that I'm literally fucking live streaming on right now, but I'm just not, in general, a big social media guy. Like, I much prefer, shit like Discord where you could just chat with people. There's none of the fucking engagement bullshit. And of course, YouTube is also another big exception. And that's really just because I like this as a means of expression. This has been an outlet for me for 11 years now. So that's why YouTube means a lot to me, and it's a social media platform I've been posting on consistently for again over a decade. Wild to think Grand Theft Auto is not too far off from having its 30th anniversary, and we'll be getting GTA 6 as the series turns 29. Oh man, GTA 6. That's going to be the only game people talk about for probably like 6 months at least. That is poised to be the biggest game launch in history. At least when the game comes out, you'll finally stop seeing those annoying "we got this before GTA 6" comments that you see all the fucking time. 2021 was my personal hell. I'm sorry to hear that. 2021, like I said, was not really a significant year to me. I mean, there were some significant things that happened, like what comes off the top of my head right away is visiting my grandmother down in Florida. I stayed with her for a week, and that was really nice. Florida is not a very nice state, but it was nice seeing her. I don't know why people want to fucking go down in Florida with the hurricanes and shit. Like putting aside the horrible politics, but I mean the hurricanes, the extreme weather, humidity, ugh, ugh. Not for me. Like, I can't even stand the humidity that's so prevalent here in NYC during the summer, but at least that's like, you know, mostly contained to one season every year. But to have that kind of weather, like, almost all year round, no thank you. I just won't have the news on TV anymore. If something comes up on YouTube that interests me, I'll check it out. I don't even watch news on the TV. I get most of my news from like, my YouTube algorithm. I watch news clips that get recommended or from like, political commentary channels and, stuff like that. I don't I don't turn on the TV and watch live TV for any reason. Well, I mean, aside from the other night when we had the final NYC mayoral debate, I watched that on my local news station that was hosting it. But aside from like special occasions like that, no, I don't watch live TV. I don't watch regular TV. We used to have cable boxes in the house that we took out a few years ago because no one was using it anymore. And there were Spectrum boxes. Now we just have the Spectrum app, and I could use that at any time. But I choose not to because again, I don't give a shit about live TV at all. I don't even know what's on TV anymore. I don't watch any shows. Well, not any like, shows that are shown on like regular networks anymore. Mostly just I pretty much just watch streaming services. I was 14 in 2017. I'm 22 now, and I feel old sometimes. You're way too young to feel old, but I get it. I feel that way sometimes as well, especially when it comes to like shit like Gen Alpha is saying, and I just barely understand what the fuck they're even trying to convey, or like jokes they're into and memes they're into. Just the other night, I learned about this fucking 6-7 meme in a Discord call, and someone had to explain to me what the meme was, and apparently, like, it's a bunch of like 12-year-olds saying 6-7 for whatever reason. I looked up the meme, and the first video that popped up was some middle schoolers at a basketball game saying 6-7 for whatever reason, and I don't understand it. I yeah, I mean, that's the sign of getting older, right? Not being able to relate to the younger folk anymore. This year has been hell for me because of the 2 times I went to the hospital getting my gallbladder out, and then months later having anemia. My mother had anemia 10 years ago. She had to get a blood transfusion on more than one occasion. These problems also, went into, 2016, and thankfully, she's, you know, much better now and hasn't had problems with anemia since, but, yeah, I can say well, not firsthand because I wasn't the one that had anemia, but it was pretty awful and scary. Like, the first time she went to the hospital, my mother, before she went to the hospital, my mother was taking a shower, and even she knew that taking a shower was probably a bad idea because she was like so devoid of energy beforehand, but she really wanted to take a shower just to like I guess show that I guess prove to herself that she's okay and she had the energy to take a shower, but no, she when she got out of the shower, she collapsed and Me and my uncle had to carry her to her room, and it was just overall very scary. I called an my grandmother called an ambulance, and she had to stay overnight at the hospital and receive blood. But yeah, I hope you're better now. My mother had to get her gallbladder removed last year, and the first few days after her surgery was kind of rough. She couldn't get out of bed. I had to, bring her up things, which I don't mind. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, it took a little bit for her to recover, but not that long. Within a few days, she was, active again, walking and doing, getting back to her normal routine. Well, she was out of work for a month, but, she was driving around and doing things again. That wasn't nearly as, serious and scary as her having anemia. November 7th. Oh, yeah, that's the day Meavers died, right? Wow, November 7th. That's in what, 2 weeks from now? A little over 2 weeks from now. I'm getting text messages. Text messages relating to the election. I already got my voting done. Don't need to fucking spam me with political ads and telling me to vote when I already did. I voted by mail. I like voting by mail. So much more convenient than going to the polls. I can vote, in the comfort of my own home, no other people around. That's what I didn't like about, voting on election day. Well, the one thing I did like about actually going to vote on election day is my polling site was actually my elementary school in the cafeteria. It was nice going back there again. The times I did go there to vote, but it'd always be so packed, people swarming around, and I just didn't like the environment. It doesn't help that the specific part of NYC I live in was is um very pro Trump, very red, unfortunately. So there were a lot of like MAGA hats and people being really annoying about voting for Trump, but eh, whatever. I mean, I live where I live, and I'm happy. I like the house that I live in, so I'm not complaining too much. Just kind of wish, so many chuds didn't live around me, but what are you gonna do? Beats living in like a deep red state where you're just surrounded by those people statewide. Ooh. Meaver shut down in November 2017, almost 8 years ago. Yeah, almost 8 years ago. Yeah, and it's wild that almost a decade has passed since Meaver shut down. It doesn't really feel that long ago. I'm still in a bit of shock. I turn 30 next year. I turned 25 in March, and that just sounds really crazy to me. I remember turning 13 and feeling so mature. Like, oh, I'm a teenager now. Wow. Even though I didn't really feel like a teenager that much. I mean, 13 in general just barely like constitutes as a teenager. Still pretty much a kid. But, it's still, by definition, you're a teenager. So that just felt, special to me. Same thing when I turned 18. I'm a legal adult now. I can vote. I can drink. I can consent. um, didn't really take much advantage of those last two. Not when right when I, well, no, I couldn't drink at 18. That's 21. What am I talking about? Well, I haven't taken advantage of the drinking at when I turned 21. Still haven't. I voted several times, and well, I mean, I'll leave the last one to your imagination. But yeah, I don't know how I'll feel when I'm at the cusp of turning 30. Might not really think about it much like I did when or maybe I will think about it, think it's crazy for a little bit, and then it just kind of the novelty of reaching a milestone in age just kind of wears off quickly, like it did when I turned 13 or when I turned 18 or when I turned 20. 21 really wasn't that significant to me. I didn't give a shit. 30 posts a day limit was nuts. It really was nuts, and it really sucked for me because the only reason when I quit Meverse, when that update was implemented, that wasn't the first time I quit Meverse. I quit Meverse like three other times beforehand, but I always kept coming back because most of the online friends I spoke to at the time were still on Meverse. They didn't have YouTube accounts, and I wanted to still speak to them. So that was the last bit of fun I had on Meverse. Because if it wasn't for that, I would have just fucking quit like months before that update. Because again, I just like really got fed up with getting my shit taken down. Which I mean, looking back, a lot of the posts that were taken down, I can understand why they were taken down. But you know, at the time, it really pissed me off. But I still really wanted to talk to friends, and you know, now that limit, you know, and then that limit was going to get imposed, which would have obviously severely limited me when it came to speaking to friends. And then I was like, yep, the last bit of fun I had on Miiverse was about to be taken away. So, what the fuck was the point in staying anymore? 30 posts a day. What a bunch of nonsense. A children's social media app. Children's social media is just not a good idea in general. I agree these days. I mean, they almost always become a den for like, you know, child predators. Like look at the fucking Roblox shit. Look at how infested that app is with well, it's not a social media app per se, it's more like a game. I don't I've only ever played Roblox whenever my cousin would force me to play with them. But you know, the little bit I know about that game, you know, kids could like, you know, communicate with people very easily, and it's not like just, you know, preset messages you could put in, you know, you could actually like, you know, type with other people. And I don't think kids should really have anything like that. You can't trust platforms like that. You know, most of the platforms don't even fucking give a shit about the predators that are on you know, that fester on them. They don't really do much unless, you know, there's a big stink to do anything. And children, they just shouldn't be on the internet, frankly. Like we or at least for at a time, at least, you know, there was a time where we would drill into you know, the heads of kids, you know, don't talk to strangers, and that, you know, that sentiment should apply to the internet. I just think it would be best if it just got rid of all like kid friendly social media and stop, you know, shoving an iPad into a kid's face. You know, the second they're out of the womb, pretty much. We'll probably see We Got X before Yandir Simulator before after GTA 6 releases. Oh god, I hope not. Wasn't that made by the guy who got caught like grooming grooming teenagers or whatever? Yandir Simulator, however the fuck you pronounce that. I was psychotic majority of 2021. Do not recommend. Yeah, duly noted. Yeah, sorry to hear that. Recently, I was on Instagram and someone I follow who lives in Canada posted a story of snow in their yard. Then the next story was someone at the beach. Yeah, it's crazy how weather can drastically differ depending on where in the world you are. Same thing with the time zones. That's always fascinated me. How, one part of the world it's like, in the middle of the afternoon, and then other parts of the world it's like dead at night. Like Australia, for example, complete opposite time zone, even opposite seasons than us. You know, when it's winter here, it's summer there. Crazy to think, when Christmas hits, it's summer for them. They must think it's so weird that we associate Christmas with like, the cold and snow and all that. Nicktoons these days is pretty much a 24/7 marathon of SpongeBob episodes. Isn't that pretty much the regular Nick channel as well? Don't they just air SpongeBob all day and barely anything else? Maybe that's changed. I don't know. Hopefully, but it doesn't really matter to me. Not like I fucking flip on Nickelodeon. I haven't done. I don't even remember when was the last time I actually watched Nickelodeon. Actually, I think I do. One of the times my little cousin came, and this was still a few years ago. Um, Probably like 2021, 2022. He came over, and um, my mom put on Nickelodeon for him, and I was on the couch. I was on my recliner, and I wasn't fucking doing anything, so I was just watching Nickelodeon with them for a little bit, and it was, of course, SpongeBob on. What else does Nickelodeon even have? That's a legit question. I don't know what cartoons are on now. I hear a little bit about, current cartoons, and I know absolutely nothing because I don't watch any of them. Don't know what's on Nickelodeon. I don't know what's on Cartoon Network, and I most certainly do not know any recent Disney Channel shows because not even as a kid I watched a Disney Channel, so I don't even know much about the classic Disney Channel shows that people hold near and dear. That 6'7" meme is dumb as hell. Yeah, I guess so, but it's not like my age demographic is any better when we were younger. I mean, when I was 13, all the fucking 21 meme was at its peak popularity, and my entire middle school was repeating 21, 21, 21. Remember the first time I heard about that meme? I was in the lunchroom, and one of my friends asked me, "What's 9 plus 10?" I was like, "What the fuck? Yeah, 19." And then he cut me off. He was like, "It's 21, you dumbass." And I was like, "What?" And then I found out, oh, it's a meme. And I guess he got annoyed that I didn't know the fucking joke because I didn't use Vine, like how I don't use TikTok these days. But yeah, that was insufferable. I remember, like, especially during math class, my fucking classmates would, say 21 over and over again. Remember my my math teacher had kind of a meltdown. She was like, "It's a stupid fine. Why do you keep repeating it?" But yeah, I mean, it's not like laughing at numbers is without any punchline is something that's exclusive to like, the kids these days. Hell, there's the SpongeBob joke. Want to know what's funnier than 24? 25. I'm sure a good chunk of people my age laughed their asses off at that when they were younger. So I can't really shit on the whole 6 7 thing. Again, I don't really know what the meme is all about. I don't know what 6 7 references, and I don't really care. Again, when I looked it up, the first thing to pop up was some middle schoolers or however fucking old the kids were in the clip, saying 6 7 at like a basketball game or some shit. I don't know if it was like an in joke between all those kids that ended up becoming a meme. Maybe I'll make a video on that, talking about, how dumb it is to like, get worked up over the 6 7 thing when again, it's not like my age group was any better when they were the age those kids were. We'll see. I'm getting B12 shots every 2 weeks, iron and folic acid supplements as treatment for my anemia. Well, I wish you the best of luck when it comes to your anemia because I know anemia is it's not a joke. I voted early in the Georgia Public Service Commission election recently. Oh, cool. Who's running in that? Anyone good? I don't really know much of anything when it comes to like local Georgian politics. I don't always like when stores are crowded because people usually get mad at me over stupid shit. Just last month there was a lady who stopped me when I was at the supermarket. She thought I took my own cart from one of the little houses that are in the the parking lot area. But for some reason this lady came up to me and she was like, "That's my cart." I was like, "What are you talking about? I saw you take my cart." I was like, "This is my cart. I got it from outside. I came in with this shopping cart. It's not yours." And luckily, she didn't really press the issue. I mean, it lasted for like maybe another 30 seconds. And then, when she realized I wasn't backing down, she walked away. But that was just so weird. I don't know if like she mistook me for someone else or if this was like the setup for some kind of scam. Don't know. But, it's very rare when any kind of altercation happens in a supermarket. Altercation with me at least. Um, because I keep to myself. I don't fucking interact with anyone at the store. And even I don't even want to. I don't even like stores. Like all the people, especially in that specific store. It's a pretty large store. And a whole bunch of people are there, crowded and not my kind of environment, but got to get shopping done, so not much I can do. I have never drank in my life, and I never will. I'm 1 year legally sober. I've been legally sober for 3 years. Turned 21 in 2022. I remember my dad telling me around the time I was turning 2021, 21. He was like, "Don't get too wasted on your 21st." And I'm like, I don't even fucking have shit planned for my 21st birthday. I didn't invite anyone over or have any kind of like, party or event or anything. Just had a regular quiet birthday with my mom and my uncles. I got some gifts, had some cake, and That was that. That's enough for me. I don't fucking need any, like, big jubilee for my birthdays or anything. Not since I was a kid, at least. Just having some cake and getting some presents and, getting some happy birthday messages and whatever, that's enough for me. Hell, I don't even care if someone doesn't even acknowledge my birthday. I usually don't bring my birthday up unless someone else brings it up. Yep, and dear Dev, AK Alex Man Mahan, however you pronounce that. Yeah, I heard the dude is a creep. YouTube has no shortage of those, unfortunately. Kids shouldn't be online because predators and a lot of them are annoying as hell. Yeah, that's another reason why I wouldn't mind seeing kids be banned from using the internet. That means don't have to encounter them. That's a plus for me. It's gonna be in the 50s all week. Classic autumn. I haven't even looked at the what the weather is gonna be like in the upcoming week. Uh Saturday 58. These are the highest. Sunday 57, Monday 55, Tuesday 54, Wednesday 55, Thursday 59, Friday 50. Yeah, it's gonna be in the 50s all next week, all the way until next weekend. I love it. I'm so glad the summer weather is gone. I know some people in my real life who are mourning the summer. They're like, "Oh my god, the summer went by so quickly. I wish it would come back already." And I'm like, "Nah, nah. I wish this weather would fucking stay all year, frankly. I am perfectly happy with it being in the 50s. It's nice and breezy today as well. I went out for a little bit earlier. Uh, we're just wearing a light jacket, feeling the nice breeze. That's my ideal weather. I don't like it when it gets too cold either. I'm not a big fan of the winter. I still take the winter over the summer though, because at least for the winter, you can combat against the cold better than you can combat against the heat. You can wear multiple layers of clothing, heavy jackets, and your body just generates heat naturally. During the summer, when it's brutally hot, you're just kind of fucked. Like, even if you're just wearing, like, as little clothes as possible, as minimal clothing as possible, you're still going to feel miserable more than likely. I hate it, especially since, the heat causes me to not sleep. It wasn't that bad this year. We started turning on the AC right when it got really humid, barring for like a week in June when it was extremely humid and we didn't turn on the AC. That was kind of miserable, but we turned on the AC after that and had it on for pretty much the entire summer because here in New York, pretty much the whole summer it was just the humidity was just fucking miserable. Glad that's gone. Good riddance. I know beach weather and everything, but no, no, I'm not a beach guy. Never liked the summer all that much, aside from summer vacation. But I'm 24 years old now, so that doesn't really, that doesn't really mean much to me anymore. And even when I was a kid, and a teenager, summer vacation was cool for like, the first 2 or 3 weeks. The novelty of not having to go to school, being able to stay up as late as I want to, and sleeping in as late as I want to. All of that was cool for a few weeks, the first few weeks of summer vacation. And then I was like, the novelty would wear off, and, I would, it's not like I ever fucking did anything with my summers anyway. Mostly just stay home. aside from a few occasions where I'd hang out with friends and such. But for the most part, I wasn't doing shit. And then I'd be like, I wouldn't mind going back into a routine, doing things with my day again. I still didn't like the aspect of having to wake up at very early in the morning at 6 o'clock and getting ready and all that shit. I hated that. Wasn't looking forward to going back to that when, August would roll around and, the looming threat of the imminent school year was hanging over my head. But, everything else, going to school and interacting with friends on a daily basis again on weekdays, I didn't mind going back to that after a certain point. Nickelodeon's main channel mainly shows SpongeBob, Paw Patrol, and Loud House these days. Paw Patrol, isn't that for like little kids? Oh well, the Nick Jr. block, I suppose, if they still have that. Yeah, I forgot about Loud House. That's also really popular, right? Like one of the few popular modern Nickelodeon shows. Because I know Nickelodeon, if a show isn't as popular as SpongeBob, within like the first fucking season they axed the show, and Loud House managed to get pretty popular. I haven't seen a single episode of that show though, so yeah, I don't know. I can't speak of its quality, but at least another show besides SpongeBob is getting the spotlight from Nickelodeon. That's something, I suppose. Nickelodeon also airs NFL games sometimes. Do they really? When did that begin? I had no idea that Nickelodeon airs NFL games. Why? What did viewership dramatically go down and they're like trying to get more people to watch the channel, so they just air football games on occasion? One time at my local Wawa store, I was grabbing a couple breakfast sandwiches, and this crazy lady started freaking out because I didn't say excuse me, even though she wasn't in my way at all. Yeah, you can sometimes encounter some interesting people at the store, or even on the bus. Public transportation, I've encountered my fair share of not so pleasant people or people with very apparent issues, and I'll just leave it at that. You know, for the most part, when I take the bus, it's a fine experience. At least when it comes to the people, I'm not a fan of the buses themselves and how dirty they usually are. But when it comes to the passengers, 99% of the time, everyone's normal. We just mind our own business. None of us speak to each other, and I'm fine with that. But every once in a while, you get some interesting people on the bus and some complete fucking assholes. It was like 8 a.m. then. As she got in line, the employee was like, he looked at you like you were speaking Chinese when I looked at her like she was freaking out over nothing. Well, that's something. Yeah, again, I don't have that many weird encounters at the store because unless like I'm saying excuse me to someone, I'm not talking to anyone at the store. It's annoying when people bring their rowdy kids to the store though, because some parents would just let their fucking kids wander and run around in the store. Like just a few weeks ago, I was at the store, the supermarket, and I was pushing the cart, and then out of fucking nowhere, this little girl comes running out of one of the aisles I was passing, almost almost crashed my cart into her. Had no clue she was coming. She said sorry and everything, which fine, whatever. I was like, that's all right. I'm not gonna start a fight with a little fucking girl. But I was like, where the fuck are her parents? Why they're just letting her wander around the store, running around the store unattended? The lows are going to be in the 40s for the next several days. Yeah, I noticed that on my weather app as well. The lows are going to be in the 40s. Again, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with the summer weather just being, you know, completely gone at this point. It's beyond me why summer is so many people's favorite season. Again, I can kind of get it, beach and all that. Again, I don't give a shit about the beach or a lot of the shit people do during the summer. But you know, uh, I'm not the biggest autumn guy either. But I much prefer autumn over the summer. If it wasn't for my awful allergies, spring would easily be my favorite season. Perfect weather, mostly beautiful days, except for the fucking pollen. Ugh. And that morning when my mom went for lung cancer surgery, oh wow. So that was the last thing I needed at the time. Is your mother all right now? She is she still battling cancer or she beat it hopefully? Very sorry about that. Got a Discord notification. Look at that later. It's gonna be in the upper 90s for most of the week for me. Oh yeah, well, you live in Texas, right? So yeah, that's about that's the kind of temperature I expect from that part of the country. I feel bad for people who live in areas of the country where it's always hot or always cold, or like in the world in general where it's always hot or always cold. Just having one specific type of weather all year round. I one of the reasons I like living where I am is because of the diverse weather, the changes, the very apparent changes in season. You know, Summer actually feels like summer, winter actually feels like winter, and so on. Whereas some people just like, brutally hot all year or brutally cold all year. I wouldn't want that. As much as I rag on the summertime, I do get sick of the cold as well during the winter. And I'm like, I wouldn't mind it getting warmer again. And then, I get my wish and it gets warmer again. And I'm like, I kind of want the cold back. But, I do like, you know, the different types of weather and, the seasons actually being, different, where I am. Speaking of weather and temperature, I should open the window. It's getting kind of stuffy in here. Should let some of that breeze in. I have a lot of stories of encounters with stupid people in that store. I have my share of stories of bad encounters as well. I was late here, wasn't I? Well, you're not that late. I'm still gonna be streaming for. Oh wow, hour and 9 minutes I've been streaming. I was gonna say, I thought I've been streaming only for like 50 minutes or some shit, and I was like, I'm still gonna be here for like over an hour. Well, I mean, still, I'm gonna be here for almost another hour. I end around the 2 hour mark, so I'm still gonna be here for a little while longer. So you still have plenty of time to chat and shoot the shit and all that. Welcome. I worked on school buses. Getting up at 4:30 a.m. every day out for work was horrible. Yeah, I could imagine. Like, yeah, I'm not a morning person at all. Fucking hate the morning. I sleep through the morning. Yeah, it's just a routine I've never been able to adjust to. Like you'd think all those years of going to school and waking up early in the morning, would get me used to being an early bird, but I'm just not like that. I've always just, been a night owl. I function better at night. I can, I'm awake for all of the night. I sleep through a significant portion of the day. That's just how I am. But I suppose eventually I'm gonna have to get used to a regular schedule. I've been able to scrape by with online stuff, that doesn't, pay extremely well, but at least it gives me like a flexible schedule. And I've had no luck of, actually finding something, that I could actually live off of so far. Fuck this job market. Loud House has good episodes, but I never really kept up with the show much. All I know about that show is it's about like a kid that lives with like a whole bunch of other kids. I don't know if he lives in like a boarding school or some shit. I just know that it's about some kid that lives with like a shitload of other kids, and that's the most I've ever heard about its synopsis. I think Nickelodeon and CBS have a deal to show them on Nickelodeon. They have Nickelodeon characters appear with other visual gags. Oh, well, I had no clue that was a thing. Just learning that now. I know on my local rock station they've been airing some NFL games on there. The radio station, I mean. Sometimes I'd be out and I put on the rock station and I just hear a football game and I'm like, what the fuck? I think that's only something they've started doing recently. My mom's car is pretty old, so there's no like Bluetooth capabilities or anything. So if there's nothing good on the radio, I am beholden to using CDs. But whatever, I have a pretty decent CD collection in the car, so not really complaining that much. NYC public transport sounds like a nightmare. Well, I mean, if you lived in NYC your whole life like me, I mean, you're naturally going to have complaints, but it's something that you're also pretty used to if you use it often like I do. And I mean, it's convenient, kind of. Don't have to drive everywhere and, worry about using up gas and all that, like one would, worry about more if they lived in, like a more um isolated area. But yeah, I mean, public transport is pretty hit or miss here. I don't have much complaints about the people aside from like, some select incidents, but the buses are disgusting. A lot of them don't run on time. So if you're like in a jam, there's there were so many times when I was going to college, I'd be late to class because my bus came late. The bus I was taking to college came late. And of course, not my fault at all, but it was still very frustrating. The guy who made the Loud House worked at Cartoon Network too, though he got the boot from Nickelodeon. Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, he had sexual misconduct allegations. Like here, after misconduct allegations came out against him dating back decades. Yeah, Chris, whatever the fuck his name is. I already knew who he was because I know he worked on the later seasons of shows like Powerpuff Girls and Dexter's Lab. When both of those shows got pretty bad. So I already didn't think very highly about the guy when it came to that. Working on becoming the new head of shows, and that's when the shows got bad. I don't know if he was the solely to blame for that, but the of course the misconduct allegations are a whole separate beast, and yeah, some seems like he's not the greatest guy to say the least. The Haktwa meme is dead. Now there's another annoying meme. 6, 7 people in my school were saying it all the time. Well, I mean, I haven't been in high school in over 6 years. Haven't been in middle school in 10 years, so I don't have to hear that meme on a daily basis again. I didn't even know what the fuck that meme was until just the other day when someone in the Discord call told me about it. I didn't hear about it beforehand. It's funny, after hearing about it, now I'm seeing it mentioned all over the place. People in this chat are mentioning it. Even my fucking mom mentioned the 6, 7 meme. She was like, I was reading this article about kids saying 6, 7. Do you have any idea what that means? And I'm like, no, I don't, because it seems like it's just like 12-year-olds saying it. No, none of my friends who are my age or around my age are saying it. Seems to be almost exclusively a Gen Alpha thing. So I didn't know anything about it. And even still, I don't keep up with the latest trends and the latest pop culture and all that. The lack of parenting is why I will never work education again. Yeah, I have no interest in ever working in education. I'm not good with kids at all. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say at all. I mean, I've had good experiences with some kids. Like for example, I'm sorry, I'm texting someone, so I'm getting a little sidetracked from the stream. But I've said it before. I've had positive experiences with my little cousin, even back when he was like 7 years old. He was the typical rowdy kid that I, didn't like and still don't like. But in short bursts, I can handle being around a kid. But I could never be a parent. I can never be, someone who has to like work a fucking career where they're always around kids and disciplining them. No, thank you. Parents definitely need to watch their kids in public. What if that little girl had an encounter with a creep? Oh yeah, the little girl on the running around in the supermarket I mentioned. Yeah, some parents just really don't give a fuck, and it's astonishing. Like they just let their kids fucking run around wherever, or like I said before, they just shove an iPad in their kid's face, and just let them use the internet unmonitored. It's just a lot of people just shouldn't fucking be parents, and I've said that a million times over. Some people just shouldn't be parents at all. And we should frankly normalize the concept of not forcing people into parenthood, essentially, like I'm told a million times over, like I'm told so many times, I should be a father because my father's last name dies with me. And I'm like, well, I don't want to be a father, and I'm not going to be a father for your fucking selfish reasons because you want me to have a kid when I don't want a kid. She doesn't have cancer now, thankfully. Still, that woman was a jackass for yelling and making me look like some sort of scumbag. Well, I'm glad your mother isn't struggling with cancer anymore. So, I know how horrible cancer can be because I've lost a grandmother from cancer. My maternal grandmother, who, as you probably know by now, I was very close to. I did know some. uh, I did know one kid in one of my. He wasn't in one of my classes, but I was in an after school program with with this kid when I was in middle school. When I was in my sophomore year of middle school, his mother, I think she had breast cancer at the time. I have no idea if his mother beat the cancer or not because I only knew this kid for like a few months and I never spoke to him again afterwards. I have kind of a fucked up story, um, somewhat amusing, I suppose. Um, this kid, well, but usually by the time I would be in this after school program, I would just be completely fucking checked out because I'd be so tired. And I would just by that point I really wanted to go home. But it was still nice to be in that program because I was able to get like homework done, and I'd have less homework to do or no homework to do when I got home. So that was a plus. But this kid was, I was sitting at his table and he was talking about his mother having breast cancer, and I wasn't listening to a fucking thing. I was completely zoned out, and I was thinking about something funny that happened earlier in the day, and I started laughing, and that kid thought I was laughing about his mother having cancer. Which, yeah, that was embarrassing, and, I forget what I said, but I was able to, like, talk my way out of it and said, "No, no, 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 I was not laughing at your mother having cancer, I was laughing at something else that happened earlier today." I just heard someone sneeze really loud. I don't think the microphone picked that up, though. But, yeah, when that happened, I felt like the biggest douchebag in the world for a little bit. Here in Georgia, it's not too bad here. I can actually see the leaves turn red or yellow, something I haven't seen in a long time. Yeah, the leaves have, well, a lot of the trees around here, the leaves fell off, but the leaves that are on the ground, a lot of them turned red, yellow, brown. I do like the change in the leaves in autumn. I always like the colors. When I was a kid, I used to like taking some leaves that looked pretty to me into the house and kept them for a little bit and then I'd put them back outside after a few days at most, usually. Another time, these two stupid kids cut me in line and gave me a look like I was a dumbass. Yeah, I mean, a lot of kids are dumb and, frankly, assholes. There was also a time during an NFL game showing on Nickelodeon an uncensored use of fuck was heard from a player. Well, I mean, it's a football game. It's not, it's obviously something kids can watch, but it's not directed at kids or directed exclusively at kids. So, shit like that can slip through the cracks. I honestly don't get 6 7 either. It's just their version of the 21 meme and Haktwa 2.0. I'm glad that Haktwa shit died. It's really the girl's fault. Haley, whatever her name is. I mean, she had a good thing going. Not to say the meme would still be popular now if she didn't fucking have the stupid meme coin, but she really torpedoed her reputation with that shit. Like she could have just been riding the Haktwa wave until it would have just naturally died off, but now she's an internet villain because of her stupid meme coin and her trying to rug pull and scam people. But whatever. That was her choice to do that stupid shit. Hold on, let me turn on the light. Getting really dark here, and we're at the point where it starts getting darker earlier. I mean, the time change didn't officially happen yet, but it's still, we're heading. It's gonna happen soon. Well, the time change that's coming up, it's the better time change in my opinion. I know a lot of people don't like it when it gets darker earlier, but I've never minded it personally. And plus, extra hour of sleep, the day is longer. Well, I mean, the extra hour in general, you get less daylight, but the days in general are longer, which I like. I know that contributes to a lot of people's depression, though, and I'm not trying to take away from that. I'm just, speaking purely from my perspective. I've just always functioned better during the nighttime as opposed to the day. I'm the opposite of a lot of people. The daytime usually brings me more depression than the night for some reason. Maybe because I've always associated the night with, peace. Everyone's asleep. It's quiet outside. The bloodline also ends with me, but I don't need no kid cramping my style. Yeah, I'm the same way. I've always fucking hated that bloodline shit because again, it's people's selfish desire for you to have a kid when you yourself don't want to have a kid. Like I've made it clear several times over, I don't want kids, no desire to ever be a father, and yet so I've been told by my mother and some people on my father's side of the family, oh, but the last name dies with you. How could you not want a kid? I'm like, well, I don't know. Maybe you and mom should have had another son. Like, what the fuck else do you want me to? I'm not going to dramatically change my life, bring in a huge life changing and, financial responsibility just because you want me to have a kid that I didn't want to have in the first place. Not going to dramatically change my life just to fulfill your fucking selfish desire. And plus, I've flirted with concepts like antinatalism, even though I'm not like a hardcore antinatalist or anything. But I just observe all of the shit going on in the world, and I'm just like, why would you even, in good conscience, want to bring a kid into this world? So that's another reason why for me, I don't want a kid. The rubber is never gonna come off. I saw videos by Matt Walsh saying people are selfish and not contributing to civilization for not having kids. What an idiot. Well, Matt Walsh's only contribution to civilization is pushing even more division and hatred, so I wouldn't say his contribution is all that important either. So fuck him and what he thinks. But someone says they don't want kids, people are like, but my bloodline." Yeah, like I said, I don't care about that bloodline shit. It means nothing to me. If my father's last name dies with me, it dies with me. Like, what? It doesn't really. I don't think about it at all. Aside from when I'm being bludgeoned by other people to have a kid because I supposedly have to continue my father's last name and to I've also said to continue my own legacy. Yeah, like I have such a fucking great legacy. No, thank you. None of that shit has ever done anything for me. Matt Walsh also has a video called "Why Women Have an Obligation to Have Children." Yeah, he's one of those fucking freaks that likes to push the narrative that women should start having kids when they're most fertile. The second they're most fertile, meaning when they're like 16, not even done with high school yet. And yet and yet it's all the trans people that are, of course, the groomers and the pedophiles and such, and freaks in general, of course, when you're saying shit like that, advocating for shit like that. Nirbenner shirt. Oh, Nirvana, yeah. It's the the typical smiley face Nirvana shirt that a lot of people think is like a clothing brand as opposed to a band t-shirt. You know, if I go out in public with this shirt, like I have several times throughout the years, but if some douchebag ever comes up to me and asks me to name some Nirvana songs, I'm gonna be like, Nirvana, that's a band? I thought that was a clothing brand just to piss them off. Because I've never liked the whole fucking thing. You can't wear band t-shirts. You can't wear t-shirts with logos of bands and artists you don't listen to, and I don't really give that much of a shit what people choose to wear on their own bodies. I mean, yeah, sure, me personally, I wouldn't wear a t-shirt that has the logo of a band or an artist I personally am not a fan of. But that's just my personal choice. If someone else is wearing a Nirvana shirt, like maybe they got it as a hand me down or some shit, or just, thought the shirt looked cool, they don't give a shit about the band. Like, I don't see why that should ruin my day, or why I should, get all upset. Doesn't affect me. I'm not one to like go up and talk to someone about their t-shirt, but if I was and I asked them, "Oh, you got a Nirvana shirt? That's cool." Or maybe someone's wearing a Pink Floyd shirt, you know. I talked to them and I'm like, "Oh, you like Pink Floyd? That's cool." And maybe they're like, "Oh, I don't listen to Pink Floyd. I just like the prism with the line and the going into it and the rainbow coming out of it, and I thought that was a cool design." And maybe I'd be a little bummed because I thought maybe I could talk to Pink Floyd about with someone, but at the end of the day, it's not a big deal. I wouldn't like scold them or anything. I'd just go about my day and be like, whatever. But some people, they have such a visceral reaction. Like, look at the fucking rant I made years ago. Like, what, in 2017? I made a video about this very subject. I don't care when people wear t-shirts of with logos of bands and artists they don't listen to. And so many fucking insufferable musical elitists commented under that video saying no, it is a big problem. They should not be wearing those shirts if they're not fans of those specific artists or bands. And I'm like, why do you care so much? I don't get it. Like, I love rock music, but there's so many like insufferable rock fans, especially online, that I would not in a million years associate with. Also, staunch believer in not breeding if you have a severe genetic mental illness coming from someone with both mentally ill parents and mentally ill myself. Oh yeah, that's another reason to not breed, I suppose. I was almost gonna say not breathe. No. But yeah, I mean, if I had it, well, I have autism, but that's not. If I had some kind of like any other type of like disorder or mental illness that could be passed on to my offspring if I ever choose to have an offspring, which is never gonna fucking happen. But if I had a condition like that could be passed off to a potential offspring, that would also factor into me not wanting to have kids as well, especially if it's something I really suffer with. Which, I mean, autism, I have my struggles, of course, but it's not something I would say I suffer with. But if I had something considerably worse than autism that I could pass off to a kid, you know, um, yeah, that would also be big factor into me not wanting to procreate. But again, I just have strong moral convictions against procreation in general. Again, like if you witness something, like what's going on in Gaza and the mass suffering that goes on in this world in general. Again, I don't know why in good conscience you would want to bring a kid into this world. Again, I'm not like a hardcore anti-natalist or anything. I've at most flirted with the philosophy, but you know, I just wouldn't want to bring a kid into this world. I again, yeah, like I just would rather spare them from entering this world, frankly. Matt even attacked people who rather spend money on a nice vacation instead of having kids. He doesn't have control over anyone's life. Well, he wants to have control over other people's lives, or at least he wants people who have beliefs that align with his, controlling what other people can or can't do with their own lives, and it's disgusting. You know, I think I think less people should be breeding. A lot of people bring unwanted kids into this world, and if you have any fucking doubt about raising a child and, being able to financially support a child and, just, have any doubt whatsoever in your ability to sufficiently raise a child, you should not have any children. Like, again, I myself, I don't think I would make out to be a good father. And I know what it's like to not have a great father. Even though me and my father, we're close now and we've since, made up and, I forgive him for a lot of the shit that happened in my childhood. But, you know, he's still objectively, when I was a kid, not a good father. And I'm not gonna like get into the whole nitty gritty of that, but you know, not to say I would turn out exactly like him, or at least I hope not, but you know, he's kind of the one that cemented into me. There are a lot of people in this world just not cut out to be parents, and they shouldn't be parents. And that's why they shouldn't bring a kid into this world. Overall, I'm just for people being way more responsible when it comes to this shit. A lot of people treat having a baby like it's some kind of fucking novelty. Like, oh my god, I'm bringing a new life into this world, and then they don't fucking think of any of the ramifications of bringing the life into this world. They don't think of the huge financial burden. They don't think about, raising this kid sufficiently. They just think it's so neat and so beautiful that they're about to become a parent. And then the novelty wears off, reality sets in. They realize how much of a burden this kid really is in their lives. And then the kid ends up probably having a shitty upbringing with shitty parents that should have never had the kid in the first place. Or at the very least, they should have just put the kid up for adoption. I mean, I know, like foster homes aren't great, of course. But there's still the chance the kid might have ended up with a family that can actually, sufficiently raise it, hopefully. But no, I'm way more for just not having kids in general. If you have any, if you're not in a position to raise a kid, even foster homes aren't, the best solution either. I had a Nirvana shirt on and a random guy stopped me, asked if I liked Nirvana, then pulled up his pants leg and showed me his in utero tattoo. Yeah, I'm not someone who would stop anyone for a shirt they're wearing or any tattoos they may have or anything like that. I just think that's weird. Like, I'm not one to like strike up conversations with complete strangers. I do have an In Utero shirt. It's my favorite Nirvana album, personally. I like it more than this shirt, but that shirt's in the wash right now. I did have someone ask me to name some Pink Floyd songs. One of the times I was wearing a Pink Floyd shirt, and I knew if I named the more popular ones, they'd probably accuse me of being a normie. So I named, what were the songs that I named? Oh, Cirrus Minor, um, Jug Band Blues, and several species of small furry animals gathered together in a cave and grooving with a pick. And then the guy was like, "Oh, wow, you are a Pink Floyd fan." I deliberately picked, the more obscure early Pink Floyd songs. Yeah, you definitely wouldn't see me wearing a Bring Me the Horizon or Pierce the Veil shirt. Those bands are lame to me. I heard of Bring Me the Horizon. I can't name a single song by them though, and I don't think I've ever heard of Pierce the Veil, so I can't comment on either of those bands. Most certainly not, the quality of their music. I mainly just wear plain t-shirts and sweaters slash hoodies. Yeah, that's my style too. I have no fashion sense at all. I just throw on like band t-shirts or, if it's cold outside, I throw on a hoodie. There's some people who harp on about fashion, like a certain leftist streamer I like watching. Oh, it's important to have a good fashion and be mindful of what you're wearing, and I've just never abided by that philosophy at all. I have no fashion sense. I just would throw on a band t-shirt and either, if it's cold out, if it's colder out, sweatpants, and that's really about it, or shorts if it's, like the summertime. I don't put any thought into what I'm wearing at all, and quite frankly, I don't care. I don't care if fashion is important to be mindful of. I'm just not that kind of person. Nirvana, Nevermind is a great album. Yes, it is a great album, but I've always liked In Utero more. Bleach is also cool, but I don't go back to Bleach as much as the other two. Ooh, am I going to be accused of not being a real Nirvana fan because I don't like the only album that's lesser known? Maybe. I've actually have seen unironically some insufferable Nirvana fans say Bleach is the real Nirvana. If you like Nevermind and In Utero more than Bleach, then you're not a real Nirvana fan. Yeah, okay. All right. Cool. Don't care. Welcome to the world, kiddo. The president just defunded the Department of Education and no more SNAP next month. Yeah, exactly. Like all of these social safety nets, and again, like you mentioned, the Department of Education getting defunded. All of this factors into why I would not bring a kid into this world. Like the very same fucking people who harp on about how it's so important to procreate, they're also gutting, social safety programs that would help you, that would provide you assistance when it comes to having a kid. Like it just makes no sense to me. My ex also just had a baby. They are both extremely mentally ill, so I fear for that child. Well, best of luck to that child. Nothing more I could say other than that. Plus, the interest of having a child wears off when they find out about the reality of raising a child. Their parents just shove an iPad in front of their face. Yeah, a lot of parents just try to, they resort to like shit like iPads as a solution to their, whiny, shutting their whiny kids up, and they damage their kid in that regard as well. Because now we have a whole generation of kids who cannot pry their hands away from their phones, cannot pry their eyes away from the screen. They live and breathe social media because literally from the very second they can form any cognitive thought, they already had an iPad shoved in their face, and that is all they know, all they fucking know. Like I'm happy that I was born at like the tail end of obviously when I was growing up, when I was a kid, iPhones already existed, but they weren't as incorporated into your life as they are now. Like when I was in elementary school, hardly anyone had an iPhone, or like the most a lot of us had were like DSs and DSIs, and but we weren't like so fucking reliant on the screen. A lot of us were considerably more sociable than a lot of kids that age are these days. So I was like the tail end of like the non iPad kid generation. I mean, social media obviously existed, but again, like with iPhones, it wasn't as, ingrained into people's lives as it is now. No kids for me ever. I value my peace and happiness. Screw Matt Walsh and fuck Matt Walsh and fuck all these other right wing dipshits. Speaking of right wing dipshit pundits, it's funny how people just quickly forgot about Charlie Kirk. Like I thought that for sure would have been like the Reichstag moment, but it just wasn't. Especially after the killer's identity was revealed, and he ended up not fitting the mold that a lot of right wingers wanted him to fit. Like he wasn't a trans person. He doesn't seem to be a bleeding heart leftist or anything. He might have had a trans partner, but even the details surrounding that is muddy. So that was like quickly fucking dropped. But oh my fucking god, the scolding, you know, everyone going like you have to sufficiently mourn Charlie Kirk, even if you thought he was a disgusting douchebag when he was alive. Like I'm so glad people just dropped that because that was insufferable. And oh yeah, wasn't there a doxing site? Wasn't it called like Charlie Kirk's Murderers or some shit? Whatever happened with that? Actually, someone shared that in my Discord server, I think. So let me look it up. Charlie Murderers. I'm not finding anything. Was it in my Discord server that was shared in? I'm not trying to look for a link for that. Ah, here we go. Expose Charlie's Murderers. Shared last month, September 13th. Blank page. Yeah, nothing showing up for me. Wow. Yeah, that was a failure. That's funny. I wonder if anyone tried uploading me onto there. Charlie'sMurderers.com. Nothing is fucking showing up. And these people are considered murderers because they didn't have nice things to say about them. Oh, boo-hoo. Yeah. Too bad they didn't sufficiently mourn the hate mongerer who wanted to see them dead. Who most certainly would not shed any tears if, a left wing figure would died in the same fashion. Same. I have almost never trusted or never followed trends in media or fashion. Yeah, I've never been one to really pay attention to what the latest trend is, the latest fad, or any of that. Even when I was in school, kids I knew would repeat certain memes or mention certain trends that I would be completely oblivious to. Don't know anything or much of anything about modern pop culture. I just don't follow any of that shit for the most part. Like I can't even tell you what artists are popular these days, music artists. I mean, there's Taylor Swift. I like listening to some Billie Eilish, and that's about it. I mean, I hear some songs from time to time from friends who, like they put some, put certain songs in their Instagram stories and whatever. And a lot of them are, by artists that are popular now. also feels like we've been speed running into fascism and dystopia since Trump got back into the White House. Yeah, because we kind of have. I mean, I wouldn't say we're completely in the dystopia just yet, but the Trump administration is certainly trying their best to get us there. iPad parents is a form of neglect, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, it really is. I mean, a lot of them just, they shove iPads into their kids' faces so they don't have to fucking deal with the kid. So the kid will be satisfied, so they won't be whining and crying because they can't be fucked to tend to their own kids. It's disgusting. Like so many times, I've gone to restaurants and there'd be a family by, where my table is, and I just observe if they have, a kid with them or multiple kids with them. Every kid, they're fucking glued to a phone screen or an iPad screen. Just really sad. And this is coming from someone who does use his phone a lot. I'm not speaking from, any like, place of authority when it comes to this, or, I'm not elevating myself on any pedestal, but at least when I was a kid, this shit, wasn't as ubiquitous. It wasn't as ingrained into people's lives as it is now. I got to live a childhood not constantly glued to a screen. And, a childhood that, I didn't live and breathe social media. When I was a kid, well, obviously not a little kid, but, still, when I was a kid, all I had was Miiverse. That, was just on a console, so it's not like I was able to be on Miiverse 24/7. Well, there was the web version, but I didn't use the web version a whole lot. Uh, I forgot to mention, but my neighbor across the hall has two kids, and sometimes her child will scream and cry, and she'll put the child in the hallway. Oh, well, the chat is moving. Sorry. Uh, put the kid in the hallway to scream out there. Young parents especially suck. I constitute that as a form of abuse, locking your kid outside of your apartment or house or whatever. Especially since that's also dangerous. Especially since someone could easily snatch up the kid. No, you shouldn't be doing that shit. The conservative subreddit changed their icon to Charlie Kirk's face. Yeah, I've seen that. I know there are still some conservatives harping on about the Charlie Kirk murder, but I mean, obviously that didn't stick. You don't really hear people talking about that anymore. Like I just fucking saw that fucking doxing site exposing, people who, you know, didn't put their grievances aside and sufficiently mourn the hate propagandist. That site failed. That's funny. Is it really down, or did the person who sent the link fuck up? I don't think there's any typos in the link. There's really, it's really down. Yeah, that's hilarious. Have you heard of coworker music? What is that, like music that would play in like an office building or some shit? The lobby of an office building? That's what comes to my mind immediately. I don't know what coworker music is. I've heard of trending singers that are popular with the kids, like Sabrina Carpenter. I've heard of her. I have some friends that are fans of her music. Tate McRae, I don't know who that is. Olivia Rodrigo, heard of her too, because again, I know some people who are into her music. They all are boring and appeal to teenage girls. Well, some young adult women too, because the people I've mentioned that are into Sabrina Carpenter and Olivia Rodrigo are women, and they're like my age or around my age. Yeah, I've heard snippets of their music, and it's nothing I'd listen to personally. And because of the amount of screen time kids have, they don't have any comprehension skills, don't listen to teachers, and are even so disrespectful. Yeah, I mean, it's also really harmful to put to shove an iPad into a kid's face so young, because they're using shit like TikTok, ingesting all of this, you know, awful short form content that just annihilates attention spans. So yeah, that they're harming their kids in so many ways by just letting an iPad raise them. Meverse caused like half of my trauma, and I find that hilarious in hindsight. Well, if you can find some humor in that, I mean, you do you. But yeah, I have heard a little bit about your experiences, so to speak, on Meverse and the people you've met on there. Some, not very good people. I'll just leave it at that. Well, for me, aside from OBA, I haven't really, I didn't befriend any creeps on Miiverse, or at least I don't think I did. I hope I didn't. I have interacted with my fair share of creeps, but none that I really considered a friend back then. I've always managed my online life and my real life during my childhood. For example, I would have never turned down an opportunity to get out with friends and to watch YouTube. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't the most social person when I was a kid either. Like, there would be times where I'd have friends come over when I was a kid to my house. And, it was fun for a little bit. Then after a certain period, it just, I don't know, felt weird. Like, here's what I mean. Um, like, this house has always been, my space. My space. But you know what I mean. Not the defunct social media platform. Well, not defunct, but whatever. Anyway, this house has always been, my environment. So it always just felt kind of weird to have another kid from school come into my house and, be in my house for an extended period of time. I don't know, it just kind of triggered anxiety and made me feel uncomfortable. I mean, I would still have a fun time in spite of that, but, it also just, I don't know, it just kind of set my nerves off having, friends come over. I love teen music, but only teen music from the late 90s to 2000s. Well, like pop, boy bands, and all that. And this neighbor also blasts her annoying music all the time, especially late at night. It's annoying. She doesn't stop, no matter how many times management tells her to stop. Well, I don't live in an apartment. I live in a house, but I live in a community. I guess you could call it a community, where a whole bunch of the houses are connected to each other. So I can sometimes hear, like for example, my neighbor, she has her TV hung up on the wall. That's on the opposite end of the wall in our living room. So sometimes when she's blasting her TV, we can hear that through the wall, but that's not a huge problem. She's out a lot. She goes on vacation a lot, so there's a lot of times where she's not home for weeks. So it's mostly quiet at her house. I don't have many complaints when it comes to, the noise she makes. She had a drinking problem years ago, though. Like, she would have boyfriends come over, and sometimes we'd hear her screaming at them. That wasn't very fun, but that hasn't been a problem in, like, at least a decade. Thank God. For example, I love Britney Spears' earlier music. There's I don't like any Britney Spears songs personally. Coworker music is basically a term that is used to describe music that's really shit or mid. So yeah, I wasn't off the mark. Shit you'd hear in like a the lobby of an office building, like Imagine Dragons and shit like that, very bland, inoffensive music that's perfect for that type of environment. I mostly enjoy 90s and 2000s rock, best music ever made. Yeah, I like quite a bit of rock music from that time period as well, but I've also been really into 70s and 60s rock as well. Rock is a great genre. My faves have to be pop rock, some new metal, 2000s rock, 60s surf rock, and indie rock. Nice. I was much more social as a kid than I am now. The great isolation. Yeah, I can definitely feel that. I was way more social as a kid. I mean, even then, again, like I said, even back then, I wasn't a huge social butterfly, but I definitely had less anxiety as a kid as opposed to now, and I was definitely more comfortable with speaking to other people and striking up conversations than I am now. So I guess in some ways I have regressed since then, but yeah, whatever. I mean, anxiety it's always been a hell for me. And on that depressing note, I'm gonna end the stream. 2 hours and 6 minutes. Wow. All right. This was a very fun stream and very active stream too. It was a lot of fun interacting with the chat, and thank you to everyone who has stuck by, who has stuck by and watched the stream in its entirety. I don't know how you could stomach listening to me for 2 hours just meandering and rambling on, but I appreciate that to no end. And thank you to anyone who was here earlier in the stream who is not here now, who, interacted with me in the chat. It's all appreciated just the same, and it's a lot of fun interacting with the chat. But with all that said, I'm gonna end the stream now. Take care, and the next stream will be some Friday in November.